Topping the headlines this week, bankruptcy and the financial collapse of cryptocurrency giant FTX. CEO Sam Bankman-Fried used billions of the company's cryptocurrency assets as collateral in loans. As this came to light, investors rushed to sell their FTX holdings. Bankman-Fried was also a top donor to Democrat candidates and causes second only to George Soros. Meantime, the first ever Catholic crypto conference met this week in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. And joining us now to discuss is conference host and founder of the Genesis Group, Matthew Pinto. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Before we delve further, I wanted to ask you a few things, if you could, if you don't mind. Break
Sure.
this down for our audience in layman's terms. What exactly is blockchain and cryptocurrency, and what are the uses for it?
Yeah, great question. Big question. Many people believe that about once every 15 to 20 years, the world, you and me and everyone in it, we experience a technological shift. About 25 plus years ago, we had the internet. About 15 years ago, we had the mobile net. And now this technology called blockchain and cryptocurrency are powerful in themselves. But when they come together, they create a whole host of other things, Tracy. One you and I will come to know as Web 3.0, something called NFTs, non-fungible tokens. This whole world of what's called tokenization. And so these are powerful technologies, but like with anything, they can be used for great good, and at times they can be used for not so good. And it's the story as old as time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned, that fallout from FTX, the bankruptcy announcement, that's been pretty far-reaching. What more can you tell us about that? What happened? And is there a way that that could have been avoided?
Yeah, great question. Again, another big question. So it really is a big moment. It's like a number 2 or 3 moment in the 14 or 15 year at most crypto history. And it just happened to happen the week before this conference, which more than a few of us think might be providence, in the sense that we can educate Catholics, which is the purpose of the conference, to really begin to address the question, what is this new technology? But FTX is a collapse of a centralized entity that people thought they did due diligence on, but they did not. And we don't fully know whether it was a Ponzi. We know it was negligence, it seems, at a minimum. But there's a lot of discussion about was this intentional, a takedown to bring on potentially regulation at a faster speed? The industry does want regulation. It just wants reasonable regulation, as any industry would want reasonable regulation. But this is a big moment, and a big event happened, and we think it was ultimately due to bad players. And strangely, many people in this field believe that this is going to happen in a new industry, and it's kind of good to get these bad players out of the way as soon as possible, so the industry can harden. Like any new technology, it can harden and eventually do the good that it's supposed to do.
Yeah, and I know you say even with this scandal, it's really important for Catholics to know a thing or two about these new technologies. Explain to us why we should stay on top of it, why it's so important.
Yeah, as Catholics, you and I affirm the unbelievable reality of something called the incarnation, God becoming man. And my sense is that when God becomes man, he affirms the created world. In the beginning, you and I know that it was very good. And so anything that is a new creation, really, in a certain sense, is a spark of the divine. Any new idea, any concept, because God himself is a creative God. And so we would say as Catholics, step one, or reason number one, is we are in the world. These creations, these new technologies are coming our way. And if we're going to be functioning in the world, at a minimum, we need to know what they are. But the bigger point is that Jesus claims every inch of the world as his own. There's not an inch in this world that is not his own. And if we can look at some of these new technologies and claim them for the Lord, look to leverage them for the common good, maybe even for the sake of the gospel, then that's a good thing. One last thing, Tracy, is you and I would want, and any believing Catholic would want, the church to have a seat at every table, because the church is in the world, it's in our lives. It really is the vehicle that the Lord set up to lead us to him. And so the church needs to have a seat at this table, especially during times where crisis hits. We want to be able to have input on how these things should be governed so they can ultimately serve the common good.
Yeah, that is such a good point. I also wanted to ask you to talk about a little bit more about what promise cryptocurrency or blockchain, what it offers to Catholics or Catholic institutions.
Let's say you were married in the church. When you were married, you needed to show certain records, like your baptismal records and the other sacraments as well. Well, a lot of those are not kept anywhere other than paper. That's a problem. And so blockchain, for example, can be used to really create immutable records for the church. But Tracy, really, there are a dozen ideas that have come our way and have been spoken of at the conference already. And we think that we're going to come away with dozens and dozens. And we're just going to, as a conference, we're just going to give them to the church.
Yeah, great advice and great to be with you, Matthew. Thank you so much. We appreciate it and God bless you.